Okay, everyone, it is 9 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody, just closing a million windows on my machine. I want to welcome everyone to the meeting of the LFAI and Data Technical Advisory Council, TAC, of September 22nd, 2022. I want to remind everyone of our antitrust policy. And also that all these calls are recorded and they will be available for viewing in a few days up on the TAC Wiki. And all previous meetings and recordings and all the presentations are also up there as well. So how do you get to the TAC Wiki? You just have to remember those first 8 characters, LFAI data, and that will take you to all the other websites that we have around, including the Wiki, which is the second item on this list. So this is our agenda. We'll do a roll call. We'll check for quorum. And I just need to open up our people. Let's see how many people we have. I don't think we quite have quorum yet. So we'll wait a little bit on that. But we'll vote on approval of minutes from the previous meeting. And then we're going to move into a new, very interesting project being proposed for the sandbox that Romeo is going to present to us. And finally, we just have a few general updates and an open discussion. I think I'll wait just 2 more minutes to see as people roll in so that we can see where we are in terms of quorum. So just everybody hold tight for just a couple minutes.
Hi, Nancy. Hello, everyone. I'm going to send a note to our members in China on WeChat just to remind them the call started.
Excellent. Thank you, Ibrahim. Yep, I see a few more joining. Welcome those who are joining us to the call. We're just waiting a few more minutes till for folks to roll in because we do have a few votes, and we need to try to achieve quorum so we can approve these 2 things we have to vote on. Okay, well, perhaps we'll go ahead and get started. I've already made you a co-host, Romeo. We can start the presentation. I think we'll probably have a few more rolling in here, hopefully, but we can go ahead and get started. Would you like to share your slides or would you like me to do it?
Yeah, I think it's better if I share because I also can give you a little demo.
Sounds great.
Yeah, okay, perfect, cool. Okay, let me try to share my screen.
Okay.
So, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I think I just show you the tool in 2-3 minutes that you actually, it's much more easy to understand than on the slides. And
Okay.
I just move over to the slides. So what we did is we have created a set of extensions for JupyterLab, but the most promising, I guess, for you and LFAI is the pipeline editor. So what it allows you to do is to create pipelines for machine learning. And the way you do it is in several dimensions, okay? So the first thing what you can do is, we will see claimed in November, but it's basically a component library, which is at the moment only composed of Jupyter notebooks. So it allows you to drag and drop Jupyter notebooks, Python scripts, R scripts, shell scripts, and whatever you can imagine. This is all pluggable to a canvas. So let's say you want to, for example, read some data from Postgres database, and then what we do is we automatically generate all the input properties for you, and that's through parsing the underlying source code. So it's very, very close between low code, no code, and the actual code. That means if you as a developer drag and drop stuff on the canvas and you need to know how the implementation looks like, or even if you want to tweak the implementation, it's all a double click away from you. That's the idea. Now imagine, for example, you do some training and whatever, and after that you are happy with the result and you want to store something to a S3 object store. Again, here you have directly access to the code. But again, here we can see the properties. Here it's also pulled from the code which properties are available, and then you can attach or assign a container image to each processing step. And that's pretty cool, because that way you have an easy way to manage your dependencies. No, you don't have to manage overlapping dependencies in virtual environments and so on between your components. That's all done for you. So you just connect it, you connect those two, and then you decide whether you want to run them locally, or you can also run them on a Kubernetes environment. Let's actually see. I have tweaked it a lot, so I'm not sure if the latest and greatest version now works. But what now happens, yeah, it's even working. What now happens is this whole thing here is then transformed, in this case, into a Kubeflow pipeline. And if you have a look at here, the Kubeflow pipelines UI, you see the runs and you see it's already running. No, so it's obviously failing because I didn't put any input parameters. You might see that later, but that's the whole thing. Some other cool features is, as I already mentioned, the runtimes are pluggable, so you can add your own runtimes. At the moment, we support local execution, Apache Airflow and Kubeflow, but it's relatively easy to add additional runtimes, and we have a couple of candidates in mind already. Another thing is what you see here on the left-hand side, that's also pluggable. So what you can do is you can add, here in this case, it's the MLX, the Machine Learning Exchange connector, and you can pull in stuff from there. In this case, you can pull in components, and then they are also showing up here in this list. So in theory, you can create your own customized no-code platform. You can design what's on the left-hand side. You can design what components you have. You can decide what runtime it supports, and that's all in open source. Okay, so that's more or less the thing I want to pitch today. If you have any questions, you can already interrupt me now or ask now. I will just go to the slides now. So. And I will try to do full screen for better experience. So, okay, so what is Elyra Pipelines? I think you already got the idea. No, it's a generic no-code, low-code data and AI development environment, which scales from the developer's laptop. What I just mentioned, you have a local execution engine which runs on your laptop, up to supercomputers. So you can run on Kubeflow and Airflow at the moment, but we have also requests from the life science community to support Slurm and SnakeMake. So that's all possible. Then what problem are we trying to solve? So Elyra pipelines are agnostic to the programming language and the runtime. And it's just code. You drag and drop, you reuse, you execute, you test, deploy, and scale. So that means the components are reusable and versionable. The whole pipeline is versionable. The data assets which it creates can be versioned through Kubeflow. So the whole thing is very handy when it comes to audits. No, for example, you have a pipeline, you train a model, you run some fairness components, like we have also support for the AIF and AIX toolkits, for example, and also demo pipeline. You see that your model is misbehaving, and then you can track it down to the software version, so which version of TensorFlow you used, which version of the pipeline you have used, which version of the component, what the actual code looked like, what the actual data looked like, and then you can really track down the errors. So how does it fit in the ecosystem? So it's a relatively generic approach. So we can run and execute nearly everything state of the art. So through the Kubeflow, for example, we can directly execute a Spark job on Kubeflow, or a TensorFlow training job, a TF job on Kubeflow. We can integrate any library into those components. So you can think of everything which runs in the container image, we can integrate in the pipeline easily. That's just a selection of the most prominent things we are currently supporting and using. And from the LFAI side, I have looked into a couple of things. So before I start to mention that, obviously MLX, Machine Learning Exchange, is already supported. No, I've shown you there exists a connector to it. On the other hand, also the libraries which IBM donated so far, AIF 360 and AIX 360 and the Art Adversarial Robustness Toolkit. We have already created components for that, which you can use in Elyra. But from the other existing things, I just identified that Kedro might be a very promising target runtime we could support, because Kedro is strong in visualization of pipelines and execution of pipelines, but it's lacking a visual editor. No? So that might be something we can do. Then we have also published all that what I'm saying more or less in at the SciFi last year in the paper. So those are two tables coming from that paper. If you compare the runtime environments and also existing open source, no code, low code tools, we just found out that a combination, for example, of Kubeflow and Elyra just gives you the most out of it, kind of. So yeah, so that's the team. So I'm just a manager of a couple of those. That's why I'm presenting, and the tech lead for Elyra, but I'm not an active contributor. So all the fame should go to those guys. And here are some metrics. So you see here on the top left-hand side, the commits. On the right-hand side, the top 8 committers to the project. And 3 of those are, by the way, already distinguished contributors to Jupyter ecosystem. So especially Martha, she's very, very young, and we are really proud that she got this flag recently. And on the bottom left-hand side, you see the stars. So it's constantly growing. That's a good thing. And then why would we like to donate Elyra to the LinuxFoundation? So I think, first of all, to pitch ourselves, now we have a proven track record in open source. It started all when some crazy guy created Linux on the host system. And it was there when IBM just started the open source journey. And at the moment, we have 1,000 core committers to different projects, including Kubernetes, Kubeflow, Jupyter, and in the total around 5,000 open source contributors. That numbers are hard to really count. Maybe we have more we are not aware of. And Elyra is part of different IBM products already. And what we now really need is open governance, because people are here and they're hesitating to really adopt it, including inside IBM, because it's not under open governance. No, and it's obvious that we are at a stage where this is really beneficial for the tool. And since we have good relationship to LFAI and already 4 projects in there which integrate with Elyra already, and some others we can add, we thought that's the best choice and the best fit for us. Okay, so the current impact is Elyra is part of a tool or product called IBM Cloud Pak for Data, which is sold in the double-digit million range to clients, and they basically get this whole thing with support from IBM. It's also adopted by the IBM Research Accelerated Discovery Platform. So that's IBM Research-wide data and AI platform. It's in Red Hat Open Data Hub. This is an open source data and AI platform coming from Red Hat, and you have it in there as well. And then we have a couple of non-IBM users. So we only are aware of those, but we are not actively supporting those or sold anything to them. So that's Americanas. That's, let's say, the South American Amazon. They're using it for as central ETL tool. So Elyra together with Kubeflow pipelines. And then two Swiss companies, Inventix and Finova, they are giving it as a data exploration and machine learning tool to their clients. So they are targeting mostly banks. And also it's used for reproducible research at the University Hospital Basel. So the problem we are tackling there is that the medical doctors, they are in this research department for 6 to 12 months. They do something great. So they are not programmers, but they are reasonably skilled to create models, for example, a COVID-19 lung tissue volume estimation model and so on. But this is just a paper and some Python scripts here and there, and using the tool, we are just streamlining it that the follow-on researchers can reuse it and start from there. So it's then all containerized and checked into Git, and you can just pull it and run it, and it works. And it's also evaluated by other participants. For example, we had a call with CERN. They looked really interested in using it. Also the MIT AI labs, where IBM sponsored the supercomputer, this 256 GPU supercomputer, and also the Deutsche Telekom AG. Okay, so what's coming next? I think we have quite stable functionality. So the tool is usable at the moment. It's used at the moment, also in production here and there. What we want to add is containerized local execution. So the local executor uses the current installation and requirements. So that's what I pitched at the beginning, that you don't have clashes with your requirements between different components that you still have in the local execution. So the next step is to containerize each component in local execution, for example, on top of Docker. Then we have also some UX things. For example, it's hard to see the progress. It's all in the log at the moment. So we want to have a visual progress bar on local execution, because otherwise we delegate that to the runtime engines, Airflow and Kubeflow and so on. They have their own UIs and progress visualizations. Then something really cool, the RJSF-based dynamic component properties, UI rendering. That's actually, if I double click the component, you see all the properties I can change, and that's currently hard coded. So what we already have currently in the master and in the main branch is a RJSF implementation where the UI is automatically rendered from a JSON schema specification. That's also something we are donating up downstream to the IBM products. But anyway, it's a really cool thing that non-UI programmers can create UIs, and it's can have a look at RJSF. It's art on its own. It supports validation and conditional opening and closing of sections and dialogues, all just in reading from a specification. We get general UX improvement requests on the issue tracker from users, which we are tackling. And on request, we are keen to add additional runtimes. We just need to make sure which one we will tackle next. Currently, signs point to Slurm or SnakeMake, but it depends on the user base. Okay, so I want to formally request that the Elyra authors hereby formally request the incubation of Elyra as a sandbox project in LF AI and data. And I'm closing here and I'm opening for questions. Thanks a lot for your attention.
All right. Thank you, Romeo, for that really interesting presentation. Do we have questions for anyone?
Romeo, this is Jim. Do you have an example pipeline with trusted AI components that you could show?
Yeah, I have. The thing is, give me 1 second, please. I can show you from the publication. I can show you the screenshot if that is okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So Okay, let's double check. So just if we already start here, that was an interesting finding. No, we trained COVID-19 classifier, that was during COVID. No, so and we saw later using the Lime library, which is in AIX 360, that the algorithm is looking mostly at bones, and then a medical doctor explained that to us. So on that particular region you can distinguish between males and females, and that's very interesting and astonishing. No, because first of all, the algorithm is rather looking at the gender than at the lung tissue, because it gives a stronger result for COVID versus non-COVID, interestingly. And the other thing is, it's a clear sign and example how features can be hidden. No, the gender is hidden here in this X-ray image just by the bone structure. No, and that's something a non-medical person never knows. No, okay. So let me just show you this pipeline. Let me zoom in a little. So those are the two pipelines. The quality isn't the best, so I just tell you what it does. No, it pulls the data in, it transforms, it filters, it transforms the images. And here in this section, a TensorFlow model is trained. That's the model which was misbehaving above, by the way. And now some things run. So for example, we have here the AIX 360 component, which creates those heat maps here. Or actually it's not a heat map, but the data can be used to create a heat map as well. No, this indication of where the algorithm is looking at. So that's AIX 360, which was creating that in the pipeline. Then we have like the ordinary matrix, like a confusion matrix. And also here what we did is we ran an AIF 360 round, because we found out that the algorithm is biased against gender, and we had the gender in the data. So we ran AIF 360, created the data. And then what you can do here in the automated way is there is a conditioned blessing component. So when you discover that your performance is good enough in the sense of the pure raw performance of the predictive power of the algorithm, plus all the trusted AI metrics, if they are all okay, then you can bless the model here, and you can notify someone either when it is deployed or when it couldn't have been deployed because of the failed metrics. And here we just deployed to KF serving. That was the example pipeline we built like 1.5 years ago. And
Great,
later
thank
on,
you.
it looks like that in Kubeflow.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, I guess I had one question for you. In the versioning scheme, is the versioning tied into anything like GitHub, or is it just specific to your database?
No, so the versioning, let's say the non-data versioning is totally done via GitHub. So we are Git. We don't need to use GitHub, but any Git server is fine. So we can version notebooks, we can version pipelines. We are thinking of getting a visual diff tool for the pipelines, but at the moment it's JSON, so you can just look at JSON and see what changed. And the rest is everything raw code. No, that's anyway a version through GitHub. And then the execution is versioned through Kubeflow. So the parameters and the executions are versioned through Kubeflow. The only thing what we not support in the UI is the data versioning. So what you need to do is you need to access a specific version of your data. You can create a specific version of your data in a, let's say, data versioning system. And let's say version tags you can then see in Kubeflow, no? Because the pipelines, they have parameters, and each run is saved, including the parameters. That way you can see which run created which data version, and for each run we also save the code state, so we can clearly tackle down each version of the code, the pipeline, the components, the data to a specific target artifact like a model or a data set.
Another question, can you put any kind of weights or anything on the nodes to say that this one needs to be run ahead of that one? Is that, or is that all tied into what you can do through the platform that you run on?
Yeah, so this is just sequential. No, it's a DAG, and it just says if this needs to run, this one needs to run first, and that is done by Kubeflow and Airflow. So we design the output in a way that Kubeflow and Airflow can do the rest. And it gets a little more interesting when we start to support SnakeMake, because SnakeMake has a very sophisticated, lazy execution engine already built in. So we need to see how we support that best. But let's say the traditional things like Kubeflow, Airflow, and Slurm and so on, we can easily support, and they are just run in sequence, either in sequence, or if they know how to do it, they can also run the components as needed. That's something we don't control. That's controlled by the execution engine.
Interesting.
So what we provide is a DAG. So this DAG here is backed by a JSON, a relatively simple JSON file. And then per runtime, we have a transformer component, which transforms then this JSON DAG into the target format. In Kubeflow, it's then a YAML file. And then Kubeflow gets the DAG and decides itself in which order it needs to run the different components. So the only thing you need to control is what resources you want to assign. So for example, if you need a GPU for TensorFlow, then you can tell the downstream engine, I want this to run on 4 GPUs or whatever. That's something you can control, but that's optional.
Very nice. Any other questions? Okay, so we're still trying to count if we have quorum. Ibrahim or Aaron, do you see if we have quorum or not?
Last count I had 7.
Okay,
I
so
see
what?
the same.
7. Okay. So what we'll do is we put out the proposal. We will try to get this approval through email. And if we don't, we'll have to vote on it next time.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Romeo, for this great presentation.
Welcome. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so we'll leave these 2 things. Just a reminder, here's the next meeting schedule. So October 6th is still open. If you have a topic you would like to share with this group, we would love to have it. So please just reach out and share your topics with us, and we'll be sure if you can make this date to put you on the schedule. And then in October, we're going to start the 20th. We start our annual project reviews, and we have 2 lined up. So thanks to those who have volunteered to come do the reviews. And we'll be doing those. And then from then on, we'll be interspersing reviews with other projects that come in or special topics. We're always open to special topics. So please bring your special topics if you can. I'm going to open it up for any additional discussion items. Is there anything anybody wants to bring up?
Yes. And please tell me if it's inappropriate. We saw some announcements about PieTorch, but I was very intrigued if there was any news.
Great question. Ibrahim, can you take that one?
Sorry, I was on mute. Susan, do you mind repeating the question? I was actually typing notes for the project.
No problem. We heard some announcements about PieTorch.
Yeah.
And it would be great to get an update if you have any.
Yeah, sure. So after how many years of LFA and data members asking us to, support and bring in PieTorch to the foundation, we're happy to announce that PieTorch has joined the LinuxFoundation, but joined as its own foundation. So we've announced the PieTorch Foundation last week at the Open Source Summit in Dublin with 6 founding members. These are the project founder, Meta, and then Google, Microsoft, AMD, NVIDIA, and Amazon. And we are actually working to expand the foundation, and we're just basically we've done maybe months and months, 6-7 months of work to get us to a point where we're able to go and announce and actually have an effective starting point for the foundation last week. And now we're at kind of the point where, okay, we made the announcement, now the hard work starts. So we're going to have some follow-up announcement on joining the PieTorch Foundation and the different programs and efforts we're launching. And I've got the question several times on, why PieTorch Foundation and not joining LFA and data? And it's a valid question, and I thought to clarify it now since I have the opportunity. LFA and data provides a mechanism for funding multiple of projects, right? Most of our projects come to us and they're, small project, they just started. And with the exception of, I think, one project, all other projects came in as, new projects or projects with 1 or 2 organizations and needed a mechanism to help establish, launch the project, have some funding for the various efforts the project needs and the various expenses and so on. And we've done that model successfully with LFA and data. PieTorch is kind of in a different cycle as a very mature project. There are thousands of developers actively contributing to it. PieTorch project by itself is a dependency for over 18,000 projects on GitHub. There are over 100,000 organizations that rely on PieTorch in their AI/machine learning pipeline and integration. So the thinking and the reasoning is, PieTorch is large enough as a project and as an effort at a global scale that it requires its own foundation. So that it follows the same onboarding process as any project coming to the LF. So if any of you here, I see people from IBM, from ZTE, from For Paradigm, all these different companies that brought in projects to us. They went through the onboarding of the project with us, and PieTorch is actually following the same path where we execute the transfer of the project assets and the account of the project, everything. And we're going through that process. So from that perspective, it is exactly the same as any other project joining the Linux Foundation in terms of process and the execution. And I believe this is really a great opportunity to finally for LFAI data members and projects that recognize opportunities to work directly and closely with PieTorch. I think this is perfect timing to start examining what these opportunities look like, because then it is super easy for us to make it happen and to make the introduction and facilitate these meetings and this collaboration and integration now that the project is a Linux Foundation project. So you can look for kind of more announcement coming in the next few weeks. Really, really exciting stuff happening. So I think as we make more announcements, I think, people will be, more and more pleased with the effort.
Thank you. It sounds wonderful. I'm wondering if perhaps at some point the TAC might have a discussion on how to, interact with PieTorch. I don't know what the TAC thinks, but that might be a nice thing to do a bit later in the year.
Yeah, so right now in the PieTorch Foundation, we only have one committee, which is the board. And it will take us really weeks. We are laying the first bricks in building a massive, house or a foundation. So I don't think IBM was in the beginning of LFA and data, but I think, I see Offer, who was, one of the founding members back then, and it takes really a few months before we have an active marketing committee, and because there are a lot of things that needs to be in place. And unlike LFA and data, PieTorch Foundation doesn't have a tag because it's a single project foundation. So PieTorch itself as a project, similar to all other projects, they have their technical steering committee. And what I would suggest is, once we have formulated internally a number of opportunities to work with the PieTorch, we can directly connect with the PieTorch TSC and have kind of a joint call to be kind of meet and greet, and also, here's some ideas. We don't have, of course, to decide on anything on the first call, but just throwing ideas and let's see which one makes sense for both parties.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I saw Offer raise his hand. I don't know if the question is still there or.
No, just waved my hand to say hi.
Oh, okay. I thought you were kind of raising a question. Cool.
No.
And of course, for any organization represented on this call, if you're interested in learning more about the PieTorch Foundation, about possibly having an interest in joining it and so on, please you can drop me an email.
All right, that yeah, definitely an important point that's been coming up is I'm getting those kinds of questions too. So looking forward to seeing more information in that area. Do we have any other topics anyone wants to bring up? All right, I think I can give everybody back a few moments. Just a reminder, the meetings are recorded. They'll be out on the wiki. And I want to thank everyone who joined us. And we're going to try to do a email vote with Erin and Jacqueline's help. So look for an email coming your way, voting members.
Maybe a quick reminder, there is a Trusted AI committee meeting in 20 minutes.
Excellent, thank you. And I know I saw that out on the Slack channel too. So those that are interested, make sure you can attend that. All right, thank you everyone for your time. I hope you have a good morning, evening, afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.